Research is hard, but your tools should not be. Subthesis.com is the free alternative to expensive software. Whether you need to calculate Cronbach's alpha or organize your field notes, Subthesis has a tool for it. No paywalls and no registration required. Check the link in the description and let's dive into today's lesson. Welcome to this essential discussion of academic integrity and ethics. Academic integrity is the foundation upon which scholarly endeavor rests. Without trust that scholars are honest about their work, their data, and their sources, the entire enterprise of knowledge creation collapses. Every paper you read assumes the author did not fabricate their findings. Every citation assumes the source actually says what the citing author claims. This trust is what makes scholarship possible, and academic integrity is what maintains that trust. Graduate students are entering a community that depends on integrity. The standards you adopt now will shape your entire career. Understanding what integrity means, recognizing misconduct, navigating ethical dilemmas, and developing practices that ensure ethical conduct are essential aspects of professional development. Today, we will explore these topics not as abstract principles, but as practical guidance for your scholarly life. The choices you make about integrity will determine whether you contribute to the scholarly enterprise with honor or damage the community you are joining. By the end of this session, you will be equipped to maintain integrity throughout your scholarly career across 4 key dimensions. First, you will understand the principles and importance of academic integrity, grasping why these standards matter and what they protect. Second, you will recognize the various forms of academic misconduct and understand their serious consequences, ensuring you can avoid violations both obvious and subtle. Third, you will learn to navigate ethical dilemmas that arise in research and scholarship, preparing for situations where the right course of action may not be immediately clear. Finally, you will develop practices that ensure ethical conduct becomes habitual rather than something you think about only when problems arise. Let us begin by understanding what academic integrity actually means. Academic integrity encompasses several related principles that together define ethical scholarly conduct. Honesty means truthful representation of your work. Your data is real. Your analyses are reported accurately. Your findings are presented without distortion. You did not fabricate results or manipulate evidence. Honesty is the most fundamental integrity requirement. Attribution means giving credit where credit is due. When you use others' ideas, you cite them. When others contribute to your work, you acknowledge them. Presenting others' work as your own is theft. Proper attribution respects intellectual contributions and enables others to verify your claims. Originality means your work represents your own ideas and effort. Assignments you submit should be your own work unless collaboration is explicitly permitted. Research should make genuine contributions rather than reproducing others' work without acknowledgement. Fairness means equal application of standards. You do not gain advantage through prohibited means. You do not help others violate integrity standards. You expect the same rules to apply to everyone. Fairness maintains the legitimacy of academic evaluation. These principles are interconnected. Violations often involve multiple principles simultaneously. Fabricating data is both dishonest and unfair. Plagiarism involves both attribution failure and false claims of originality. Understanding why integrity matters helps you appreciate these standards as serving genuine purposes rather than arbitrary rules. Knowledge creation depends on trust because scholars cannot verify everything themselves. We build on others' work trusting that it is honest. When that trust is violated, other scholars waste time on false foundations. The cumulative nature of scholarship requires confidence in existing work. Your reputation is built on integrity, and once damaged is nearly impossible to repair. Academic communities are small, memories are long, and integrity violations follow people throughout their careers. A reputation for integrity enables collaboration and trust. A reputation for misconduct closes doors permanently. Fair evaluation requires that everyone follows the same rules. If some people cheat while others do not, outcomes no longer reflect merit. Academic credentials lose meaning when they can be obtained through fraud. Integrity protects the value of honest achievement. Professional responsibility means you represent your field beyond your individual work. When scholars in a field violate integrity, public trust in that field suffers. Misconduct by some reflects on all. Being part of a scholarly community means accepting responsibility for maintaining its standards. Plagiarism is presenting others' work as your own. Understanding its various forms helps you avoid both obvious and subtle violations. Direct copying of words without attribution is the clearest plagiarism form. Taking text from a source and presenting it as your own writing, even a single distinctive phrase, violates integrity standards. Quotation marks and citations are required when using others' words. Paraphrasing without citation is also plagiarism because ideas, not just words, require attribution. Rephrasing someone else's ideas in your own words does not make them your ideas. If you learn something from a source, cite that source even when not quoting directly. Self-plagiarism involves reusing your own previously published or submitted work without disclosure, submitting the same paper to multiple courses, or recycling published material in new publications without acknowledgement violates integrity even though no one else's work is involved. New submissions should be new work. Mosaic plagiarism combines material from multiple sources into something that appears original. Weaving together others' words and ideas without attribution, even with modifications, fails to give credit where due. The patchwork nature does not disguise the fundamental problem of using others' work without acknowledgement. Fabrication and falsification are among the most serious forms of research misconduct, striking at the heart of scholarly truth-seeking. Fabrication means inventing data or results that were never actually collected. Creating fictional research participants, generating fake measurements, or reporting experiments that were never conducted are all fabrication. These violations are not mistakes or cutting corners, but deliberate fraud. Falsification means manipulating data or results to misrepresent findings, selectively removing data points that contradict your hypothesis, adjusting numbers to achieve statistical significance, or manipulating images to show things that were not really there are falsification. The data existed but has been deceptively altered. Omission of inconvenient findings, while not always misconduct, becomes problematic when it distorts the record. Not reporting failed experiments, hiding analyses that contradicted your conclusions, or selectively presenting only favorable results can constitute falsification even without changing the numbers themselves. Detection of these violations happens more often than perpetrators expect. Replication attempts fail, co-authors notice discrepancies, statistical analyses reveal improbable patterns. Digital forensics detect manipulated images. The consequences when caught are severe and career-ending. The risk is not worth taking. The consequences of academic misconduct are severe and extend across multiple dimensions of your life. Academic consequences for students can include failing grades, course failure, academic probation, and dismissal from the program. These consequences appear on your transcript and affect your career trajectory. Graduate programs take misconduct seriously because their reputation depends on the integrity of their graduates. Professional consequences for established scholars include retraction of published work, loss of funding, termination of employment, and permanent reputation damage. Retractions are publicly announced and permanently associated with your name. Future employers, collaborators, and funders will know about your misconduct. Legal consequences can arise when misconduct involves grant funding. Using federal research funds for fabricated research constitutes fraud. Investigators have faced criminal prosecution, fines, and imprisonment. These cases are relatively rare but demonstrate that research misconduct can have legal dimensions. Personal consequences include the shame of public exposure, loss of colleagues' respect, and damage to relationships built during your career. The personal toll of misconduct exposure is significant even beyond formal consequences. Living with the knowledge that you violated the trust of your scholarly community creates lasting burden. While some misconduct is clearly wrong, many situations involve ambiguity. Navigating gray areas requires careful judgment. Collaboration boundaries raise questions about what counts as your own work. If a colleague helps you substantially with analysis, is the result still your work? If you get extensive feedback on a draft, how much is yours? Different fields have different norms, and understanding appropriate collaboration in your context matters. Citation adequacy questions involve how much citation is enough. Common knowledge does not require citation, but what counts as common knowledge? How many sources support a point before citation becomes excessive? These questions have judgment-based rather than rule-based answers. Data sharing and reuse raise questions about what can be legitimately used from others' work. Using publicly available data sets is generally fine, but what about data shared informally? What about analyses your lab conducted that you did not personally perform? When uncertain about whether something constitutes misconduct, ask before acting. Your advisor, other faculty, or research integrity offices can provide guidance. It is better to ask a possibly naive question than to commit a violation you could have avoided. The asking itself demonstrates good faith that would matter if questions later arose. Research involving human subjects requires specific ethical protections. Understanding these requirements is essential if your research involves people. Informed consent means participants must understand what they are agreeing to before participating. They must know what the research involves, any risks, how their data will be used, and that participation is voluntary. Consent processes have specific requirements that you must follow. Minimizing harm to research participants is a fundamental ethical obligation. Research design should reduce risk. Benefits should justify any remaining risks. Vulnerable populations require additional protections. You are responsible for the well-being of people who trust you with their participation. Confidentiality protections safeguard private information that participants share. Data must be stored securely. Identifiable information must be protected. Publication must not enable identification of participants without consent. Breaches of confidentiality can harm participants and violate their trust. Institutional Review Board approval is required before conducting human subjects research. IRBs evaluate research protocols to ensure ethical compliance. Even research that seems obviously harmless requires review. Conducting human subjects research without IRB approval is itself misconduct regardless of whether the research was otherwise ethical. Ethical research requires responsible practices in handling data and conducting analyses. Data integrity begins with accurate recording and extends through preservation. Data should be recorded as collected, not adjusted afterward. Raw data should be preserved even as you work with processed versions. Mistakes in recording should be documented transparently. The integrity of your findings depends on the integrity of your data. Appropriate analysis means using methods that match your research questions and data. Statistical tests require assumptions that must be met. Analytical choices should be justified by the research design, not by which choice produces desired results. Post hoc analytical decisions should be disclosed. Complete reporting includes null and negative results, not just findings that support your hypotheses. Selective reporting distorts the scientific record and contributes to publication bias. What you did not find can be as important as what you did find. Documentation enables verification and replication by creating records sufficient for others to understand and reproduce your work. This includes detailed methods, descriptions, analysis code, and data availability when possible. Good documentation serves both integrity and scientific progress. Fair allocation of authorship and credit for collaborative work is an important integrity issue. Authorship should reflect substantial intellectual contribution to the work. Simply providing funding, supervising students, or allowing use of lab space does not automatically merit authorship. Contributing to design, data collection, analysis, or writing typically does. Standards and norms vary by field. Learn your field's expectations. Author order conventions differ across disciplines. In some fields, first author did most work and last author is senior supervisor. In others, authors are alphabetical. Understanding your field's conventions helps you interpret authorship and participate in discussions about author order. Acknowledgements recognize contributions that fall below the authorship threshold. Technical assistance, feedback on drafts, or other helpful contributions deserve recognition even when they do not warrant authorship. Thoughtful acknowledgement is both courteous and ethically appropriate. Authorship disputes should be addressed early rather than waiting until publication. Discussing expectations about authorship before or during collaboration prevents conflicts after work is complete. When disputes arise, address them directly rather than letting resentment build. Conflicts of interest arise when your interests might compromise your scholarly judgment. Managing conflicts ethically requires recognition and appropriate response. Financial interests can create conflicts when you stand to benefit financially from particular research outcomes. Industry funding, consulting relationships, ownership stakes, or patent positions can all create conflicts. These relationships are not inherently improper but require disclosure and management. Personal relationships create conflicts when you evaluate or make decisions about people you have personal connections with. Reviewing a friend's paper, evaluating a romantic partner's work, or making decisions affecting people you have conflicts with all require recusal or disclosure. Intellectual commitments to particular theories or positions can create conflicts when evaluating work that supports or challenges those positions. While complete objectivity may be impossible, awareness of your commitments and how they might affect your judgment helps you evaluate fairly. Disclosure is the primary mechanism for managing conflicts. Declaring potential conflicts to journals, funders, institutions, and collaborators enables appropriate oversight. Undisclosed conflicts that later emerge create serious problems. When in doubt, disclose. Transparency enables management. If you teach during graduate school, ethical considerations apply to that role as well. Fair evaluation requires applying equal standards to all students. Personal feelings about students should not affect grades. Evaluation criteria should be clear and consistently applied. Favoritism and prejudice both violate ethical teaching standards. Appropriate boundaries maintain professional relationships with students. Power differentials between teachers and students require careful navigation. Romantic or sexual relationships with students you supervise are prohibited in most institutions because consent is compromised by power imbalance. Academic freedom to pursue and present ideas comes with responsibility. Freedom to explore controversial topics does not include freedom to discriminate, harass, or abuse students. Teaching should create environments where all students can learn. Intellectual property considerations apply to student work. Students own their ideas and their written work. Using student work for your own purposes, publishing student writing as your own, or failing to credit student contributions violates their intellectual property rights. Treat student work with the same respect you want for your own. Academic life creates pressures that might tempt corner cutting. Recognizing and resisting these pressures is essential. Deadline pressure is real but does not justify shortcuts on integrity. If you cannot complete work honestly by the deadline, the ethical response is to request an extension, accept consequences of late submission, or do less ambitious work. Submitting fabricated or plagiarized work to meet deadlines is never acceptable. Publication pressure in competitive academic environments can tempt fabrication, falsification, or inappropriate practices, but no publication is worth the consequences of misconduct. A career built on fraudulent publications is no career at all. Honest work that takes longer protects your future. Funding pressure when grants determine career success can create temptation to promise results you cannot deliver or claim results you did not achieve. But funders eventually discover fraud, and the consequences destroy careers. Honest reporting of both successes and failures builds long-term credibility. Your long-term interests are always served by integrity. The short-term gains from misconduct are never worth the risk. The peace of mind from honest work has value beyond career considerations. Integrity is an investment in your future self. Witnessing misconduct by others creates difficult decisions. Understanding how to respond helps you navigate these situations. Assess carefully before acting because accusations of misconduct are serious. Be sure you understand what you observed. Could there be innocent explanations? Do you have evidence beyond suspicion? Careful assessment prevents both false accusations and ignoring genuine problems. No reporting channels at your institution. Research integrity offices, department chairs, deans, and ombudsman services all may receive misconduct reports. Understanding where to bring concerns and what processes follow helps you report effectively if you decide to do so. Whistleblower protections exist at most institutions to protect those who report misconduct in good faith from retaliation. Knowing these protections exist provides some security. However, reporting misconduct still carries risks and potential costs that you must consider. The burden of reporting and the obligation to maintain integrity must be weighed. Reporting misconduct can be costly and stressful. At the same time, allowing misconduct to continue damages science and may harm others. There is no easy answer about when to report. The decision depends on circumstances, evidence, and your own judgment about what integrity requires. Ethical conduct is easier when it becomes habitual practice rather than deliberate choice in each situation. Developing good habits protects you. Cite as you write rather than planning to add citations later. When you use a source, cite it immediately. This practice prevents forgetting where ideas came from and reduces risk of inadvertent plagiarism. Building citation into your writing process makes proper attribution automatic. Document thoroughly to create audit trails for your work. Keep notes on where data came from, what analytical decisions you made, and why. This documentation protects you if questions arise and supports your own later review. Good documentation is both ethical practice and practical protection. Ask when you are uncertain about appropriate conduct. Consulting advisors, research integrity offices, or experienced colleagues before questionable decisions prevents violations. The act of asking itself demonstrates good faith. Answers provide guidance you might not have found yourself. Pause before taking shortcuts and consider consequences. When tempted to cut corners, stop and think. Is this actually a problem? What could happen if this is discovered? What would I think of someone else who did this? This reflective pause often prevents regrettable decisions. Multiple resources exist to help you navigate ethical questions. Knowing these resources helps you find guidance when needed. Research integrity offices at your institution provide guidance on ethical research conduct. They can answer questions about specific situations, explain policies, and help you understand appropriate practices. These offices are resources for guidance, not just enforcement bodies. Professional codes from disciplinary associations articulate standards for your specific field. Organizations like the American Psychological Association, American Sociological Association, or American Public Health Association publish ethical guidelines tailored to their disciplines. These codes address issues specific to your type of work. Training programs on responsible conduct of research are required for many federally funded researchers and may be available more broadly. These programs provide systematic instruction in research ethics. Required training should be completed. Optional training is worth pursuing for thorough grounding. Mentors and peers provide informal guidance through conversation and example. Watching how ethical researchers conduct themselves teaches practical ethics. Discussing difficult situations with trusted colleagues helps you think through dilemmas, build relationships that support ethical development. Ethical responsibilities evolve across your career while fundamental principles remain constant. As a graduate student, you are learning the standards that govern scholarly conduct. Your responsibility is to understand these standards and incorporate them into your developing practices. Mistakes during learning are somewhat more forgivable than later violations, but this grace does not extend to deliberate misconduct. In early career, you establish the practices that will characterize your work. The habits you form early tend to persist. This is the time to ensure your practices are solidly ethical so you do not face pressure to change problematic patterns later. As a senior scholar, you model ethical conduct and mentor others in appropriate practices. Your behavior teaches students and junior colleagues what is acceptable. This responsibility requires not just personal integrity, but active promotion of ethical culture in your research group and field. The fundamental integrity principles do not change across career stages. What is dishonest as a student remains dishonest as a professor. The standards apply equally regardless of seniority or reputation. Maintaining integrity throughout your career is both an obligation and an achievement. Individual integrity operates within cultures that either support or undermine ethical conduct. Contributing to ethical culture amplifies your individual impact. Open discussion means ethics should be a normal topic of conversation, not something uncomfortable or off limits. Labs and research groups that discuss ethical questions regularly develop shared understanding and catch problems early. Creating space for these conversations contributes to culture. Modeling ethical behavior demonstrates through your actions what good conduct looks like. Others observe how you handle ethical questions, give credit, report results, and treat research participants. Your behavior influences the norms of your environment whether you intend it to or not. Supporting others in maintaining integrity helps colleagues who face pressure or uncertainty. Offering guidance, providing reality checks, and creating accountability among peers strengthens everyone's integrity. You are not responsible for others' conduct, but you can help them do well. Systemic attention recognizes that ethical problems often have systemic causes. Publication pressures, funding structures, and institutional incentives can create conditions that encourage misconduct. Working to change problematic systems addresses root causes beyond individual responsibility. Let us consolidate the essential lessons from today's exploration of academic integrity and ethics. First, recognize that integrity is the foundation of scholarly trust. Without confidence that scholars are honest, the entire enterprise of knowledge creation cannot function. Your integrity contributes to this foundation. Violations undermine it for everyone. Second, understand that misconduct has severe and lasting consequences. Academic, professional, legal, and personal consequences of integrity violations are serious and permanent. The short-term gains from misconduct are never worth the long-term costs. Third, develop habits that make ethical conduct automatic. Citing as you write, documenting thoroughly, asking when uncertain, and pausing before shortcuts builds integrity into your routine work. Habits protect you better than intentions alone. Fourth, build and contribute to cultures of integrity. Individual ethics operate within environments that support or undermine good conduct. Open discussion, modeling behavior, supporting colleagues, and addressing systemic factors all contribute to ethical culture. In our next session, we will explore dealing with setbacks and rejection, building resilience for the inevitable difficulties of academic life. Writing a thesis is a marathon, not a sprint, but you do not have to run it alone. If you are feeling stuck with your data or overwhelmed by your sources, let us help. Head over to subthesis.com. It is completely free and designed to make your life easier. You are making progress. Keep going. And don't forget to subscribe for more support.